Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much. I hope you stay. I hope you come back. I would love for you to click the subscribe button. It helps to grow this channel, and the notification button. And like, if you so choose, the more people that know about their own true innate power, the more they can embody it. And the more we embody our true power, the more we can live up to our potential. And I believe that when we are in embodiment of our own power, when we feel empowered, the world is going to change. Except the world is not going to change by itself. We are going to be part of this tremendous change. If you're here listening to this, you are part of this tremendous change that's taking place right now. And my intention, my job, if you will, is to communicate with the spirit world, if you will, in order to bring forth information that may help us all become and embody more of our power, to be more empowered human beings, to essentially help us all connect with our greatness. And it's not the ego greatness, it's the greatness that's beyond the structure of our ego. So if you are into this sort of thing, if you would like to feel more empowered, if you would like to understand what makes you tick, which you may not be which may not be visible to yet, if I can help you understand aspects of yourself that are unconscious so that they can become conscious, so that you can choose to do something about aspects of you don't like, then I'm serving the greater purpose and I'm helping with this big change in the world. Please feel free to share this with a friend or two. Do not take any word that comes through my mouth as gospel. It is merely a different perspective. It is a higher perspective, but you get to choose which perspective you prefer. You may prefer your current perspective, or you may find that this other perspective sheds light on something, or sheds a lot of light on something you were not able to see before. And as a result of that, you become a more embodied person. But just because it comes out of my mouth does not mean you should automatically assume that it's true for you. Test it out. Take it for a drive, if you will. Test it for yourself. See how it feels in your body, because your body will, generally speaking, tell you whether you are hearing some deeper truth or whether it's something that doesn't resonate with you. And some of the things you will hear may not resonate with you right away. It may actually be a while before it resonates with you, and that's okay. That's why I always say the right message will find its right owner at the exact precise time where it's most potent. So this may be one of those times for you. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. Again, without you, I wouldn't do this. And when I connect to higher frequencies, I literally feel at home, and I want to stay there 24/7. But I still have to be the human that I am. Otherwise, I wouldn't be relatable. Okay, so thank you all so much. I also huge thank you to all of you who have booked with me and took advantage of the Black Friday special. I am immensely grateful and honored. And thank you to all of you who've signed up for my private mentorship program. I am absolutely thrilled to be working with you and helping you find your own way in the world in a more empowered way. This week's messages are all about releasing. We are in very potent times to release, or to be able to release. And releasing happens on many levels: emotional, spiritual, physical release. And if you would like more of the extended channeled material that came through about what we are releasing and how to release and what that all looks like, there's a link down below for the extended version. It is absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a penny other than your own time. So feel free to click on that and listen to the extended channeled messages. But this particular video is more structured, if you will, and it's divided into 3 different piles. So like most weeks, you will be guided to a certain pile or picture that you are drawn to in order for me to give you a more specific messages in terms of what you are releasing, how the releasing happens, and so on and so forth. So always remember, my biggest aim and intention to help you realize your potential and to help you assume responsibility for your own life. That is not to say that you are not responsible now, but we oftentimes, without even knowing it, give that responsibility away to other people. Ultimately, when you are responsible for your life, you get to create your life more the way you want it. And that is, in my perspective, a good place to be. It is also to help you listen to your intuition, to help you be more in communion, if you will, with your higher self, with source energy, with higher beings whose intention is to help us all grow. That is my intention. And you will never be able to do that unless you trust yourself, unless you trust what you receive. So whenever you are choosing these piles, always, always, always go first to your intuitive feeling. What does your intuition tell you? What pile or picture do you get this pull towards? It might be just one, it might be all of them, but it might be one that stands out to you more than the other two. At the end of the day, I always say, whatever you are listening to, there's a pretty good chance that there is something in it for you. So if you're a subscriber, you know the drill, you know how it works. You're pro at this, at least that's what I'd like to think. So choose your piles accordingly. Thank you again for being here. I always look forward to your comments. And of course, if you would like to work with me and my team, I always forget about this. You can do that. There's a link right down below, and click on it and get yourself situated or booked, and we will be honored working with you and helping you figure out your life as we go through this maze. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump onto each pile and see what individual pile has for you in terms of a message or messages. So here we go. So let's go through 3 piles. If you want the extended version, click on the link below. It'll take you to a site where you can see the extended channeled, very powerful message. Link is down below. Doesn't cost you a penny, just your time. I think you might like to hear that if you're looking for releasing. But let's go through each pile, and let's see what pile you are being drawn to. And remember, the topic is releasing. We are in a process of massive releasing. Okay, so whatever picture you're drawn to, if you're drawn to picture number 1 or pile number 1, let's see what we have for you. Okay, very interesting. What are you releasing? If you're pile number 1, the first card you get is Shamanic Journey. You are absolutely on a road to healing. But for some reason, I see you walking backwards. Like, why are you walking backwards? It's like you're walking backwards. I don't get it. Let me just tune in. Why is this person walking backwards? It's like you're continually facing your past. Okay. So pile number 1. Notice if you continually are facing your past, constantly looking to the past, constantly comparing to the past, constantly thinking about the past. Because if that is the case, what you are doing is you are living in your past. Do yourself a favor. If you want to live in your past because it brings you joy and happiness and you can't get enough of it, then at least be conscious about it. Make it as a conscious choice. I am going to live in my past if it kills me. Okay? Do it because you can. Do it because you want to, not because you don't know you're doing it. Okay? On the other hand, if living in your past is causing you to feel stuck, then you constantly focusing on your past are creating this stuckness for yourself. It's not a blame. It is not a blame on any level. It is to show you how when we are not conscious, how we use our power and what it does. We end up doing things unconsciously we don't want, or we end up creating situations where we don't want to be, and we're not even conscious of doing it. That's why being open to higher understanding is so important. It allows you to free yourself from your internal prison, from your outdated story, from your smallness, whatever it may be, from your stuckness. Be okay with who you are without trying to compare yourself to other people. Comparison, okay? If you're constantly someone who's comparing themselves, you're either comparing yourselves, well, no, I shouldn't say that. What I'm getting is if you are the type of person who is comparing him or herself, it's going to be for one of two reasons. You're trying to build yourself up, or every time you compare yourself to somebody else, you feel like shit. Pardon me, my French. Okay. Now, comparison of data is very good, but that's not what I'm talking about. Okay. Overpromising to other people. If you have a tendency to overpromise yourself to other people, and because of doing that, you stretch yourself really thin, and then as a result of that, you suffer, then at least please understand why you are overstretching yourself in the first place. Why are you doing that? For what? What does it give you? I just heard it makes you capable. Oh, no. You're capable without the need to stretch yourself or overstretch yourself. No, that's an excuse. Now, here's the thing. If you, in fact, do not believe that you are capable, and that's some deeply rooted belief, and the way to make yourself feel capable is to overstretch yourself because you believe that when you do that, that means you're capable, then that's a story you need to look at, because your story is skewed. At some point it served you, doesn't serve you anymore. They're saying you're running on thin ice. You're running on thin ice. Interesting metaphor. I don't want to interpret it, but that's you're walking on thin ice. By overstretching yourself constantly, you're walking on thin ice. And just the thought of walking on thin ice, like, ooh, I wouldn't want to be there. It's dangerous. Okay? I'm not saying something dangerous is going to happen, but the message is, if you continually overstretch yourself and you don't understand why, you don't understand the reasons behind why you do that, you're walking on thin ice. Okay? I don't think I've ever received a message this strong in these readings or these sessions. I don't like to call them readings. Okay? But that's okay. If it's you and you're hearing this, and whether you are stretching yourself too thin or doing some other thing purposely, but it backfires on you and you keep doing it, then you're involving yourself in something that is not healthy for you. And if something is not healthy for you, and you keep co-creating it at least, then you better damn understand why. What for? Why do I do this to myself? What's in it for me? And if your ego says nothing, it's impossible. It is impossible. Of course you get something from it. Otherwise you wouldn't do it in the first place. There would be no reason. Because everything we do, and I mean everything we do, has a reason. We are not conscious of that reason 95% of the time, but there's always a reason. There's always root. There's always the base of the story. That's how I see it. Okay. So understanding yourself right now is huge for you right now. It will help you clear the fog and clear I see a cloudy sky and then the clouds part. It'll help you gain more clarity. And as a result of having this clarity, you will begin to choose wisely, more wisely for yourself. Doesn't mean you're going to not ditch people. Doesn't mean you're going to, not live up to your responsibilities. But you're going to understand yourself. And as such, you're going to shift the way you do things so that it's not affecting you in a negative way. And you will do it as a choice. And I just heard, who's your boss, babe? Who's your boss, babe? You're the boss, remember? That's a message. Card number 2. We have 9 of Wands. So I can see that you guys are going through pile number 1, some trying times. I can see that. Because of the color of his outfit, I am drawn to the second chakra, yes, which is the sacral. To me, oftentimes when I see the sacral chakra, obviously any organs associated with the sacral chakra, ovaries, what's sacral chakra? Spleen, urinary tract, kidneys, ovaries, uterus, blood sugar, anything like that, might be, you might be experiencing some things there. I am not on any level, by any stretch of the imagination, saying that you are going to have problems. I'm just saying, if you've had some issues before, that area is probably very sensitive, so you might experience some bladder infections or kidney infection or something, even kidney stones. Okay, is that in kidney? Yeah, kidney stones. So nothing too much to worry about, but just know that there might be some things that come up in your physical body, in your belly down. Okay, and I don't get that it's anything serious necessarily. You are also trudging a new territory. You are in a place you are not familiar with, and that could actually be geographically, could be in a job situation, it could be in any situation. You're just in a new situation. You're in a new situation you're not familiar with, or it is how you are experiencing the world inside of you. Because remember, we are shifting, we are changing. Compromise yourself no more. So some of you in pile number 2 are used to compromising yourself or over-compromising. Again, if you are in a situation where you over-compromise all the time, you're going to feel at some point that you're always empty-handed. One way to not get to that place or to resolve it if you're already there is to understand why do I do this? What's the purpose of me overextending myself? What is the reason for me keeping myself small? You get the picture, okay? So there's some pretty big kick-ass understanding that's available to you over the next 2 to 3 months, 3 to 4, somewhere there, okay? And I just heard, don't take it lightly. I'm also seeing the number 666, 555, so you might be seeing repeated numbers, 8 as well. I feel July is somehow important for you, pile number 1. Okay. Last but not least, how appropriate. Clear your energy. Declutter. Do yourself a favor. Get rid of things you no longer need. And that goes for situations, people, clutter, 3D things, too many papers, and certainly last but not least, the critters in your mind. Aspects of you that are heavily weighing on you and you just want to be done with it. Okay, I'm getting something about being irresponsible, feeling irresponsible, being irresponsible, something around responsibility. There's an internal issue around responsibility, fear around responsibility or irresponsibility. So you either fear responsibility, or you are fearing being called, or you are fearing being irresponsible. Okay, and whoever you are, most likely it comes from your conditioning. Okay. On the other hand, if you are someone who is irresponsible and you know this about yourself, then you might want to, because when we are being irresponsible, especially if it's over and over again, it usually doesn't serve us very well. Okay, we can't be trusted, we can't be relied upon, people can't rely on us. It's kind of a lonely place. Okay, so if you are someone who is responsible, or you believe that you are responsible, now believing that you are responsible and actually being irresponsible are two different things. So if you believe, or if you are irresponsible and you know that you are irresponsible and it's caused you a few headaches in your life, maybe ask yourself the question, why does responsibility scare me so much? What is so scary about responsibility? Because I don't feel you would want to consciously be irresponsible. It's not a fun place to be. Being carefree does not mean irresponsible. It could be. It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Okay? Yeah. So whoever that is, fear of responsibility or fear of being irresponsible, that's a little nugget within you that you might want to investigate. Okay? So that's what I have for you, pile number 2. Hello, beautiful pile number 2. I think in the last pile I said, thank you, pile number 2. I meant pile number 1. Sometimes it happens. Okay, so if you are going to put myself on a timer, because once I start talking, I don't realize how long I talk. I just get lost in it. And then it ends up being an hour and a half video. And some people don't want to have that long of a video. Pile number 2. So again, we are talking about release. What are we releasing? What are we holding on to that's not necessary, that's outdated? Okay, let's see what messages we have. New paradigm. Your level of consciousness is changing. You are articulating yourself differently to yourself and to others. And this new level of articulation is coming from your newfound belief or sets of beliefs. Something profoundly is changing. Now, whether it is actually happening right now, you're in it already, or it's going to happen over the next 3 to 4 months, it could be one of those. I feel for more of you, it's coming up. You've had to, you've been facing issues of existential issues, existential. Okay. In other words, you are in a process or going to be questioning your very reason for being here. I think I addressed that in the last video when we talked about the soul's purpose or your purpose. This questioning is necessary in order for you to put yourself on a new path One that is familiar yet unfamiliar at the same time. I'm going to say it differently. One that is unfamiliar yet strangely familiar at the same time. It's like you've been there before, but you don't know when or how. Okay? And I get a lot of peace with it. A lot of peace. And the best way that I can describe it, just to give it a 3D twist, you are walking out of a dark forest and into a clearing. So just imagine walking out of a dark forest. You've been there for a long time. And now you're walking out into a clearing where it's beautiful sunshine, it's uncluttered, it's so much space. And that vision can actually be depicting your mind. Dark thoughts, clear thoughts, unable to see, being able to see so clearly. Sometimes it's so clearly, it's so scary. And you are, what is it? You are on your own search. Not quite sure what it means, but you are on a search to find yourself. You are on a path, on a search to find yourself. That's what I'm getting. Here's the thing. You haven't lost yourself. It's impossible. You can't lose yourself. You can deny yourself, yes. You can pretend it's not there, yes, it's same as denial. You can forget temporarily. You can choose not to listen to it. But whatever you is that you are searching for, it's already there. It's just underneath all the clutter we call the human mind. All the things and beliefs. It's all underneath that. So when I see you moving on a different path, it's not necessarily a path in front of you that is of physical nature. It can be, it usually is. But this is an internal. Your internal focus is changing. What you are focusing on now versus what you are used to focusing on. For example, if you're used to focusing on old pain, not necessarily physical, then there is no other way but to experience pain. If you focus on pain, you're going to experience pain. There is no other way. There's no other way. And you're acknowledging that, number one, and you're choosing, because you're qualifying yourself differently now, because you are qualifying yourself differently now, you look at yourself as a quality and you begin to admire it. There's a quality about you that you begin to admire. That's what's changing. That's what's changing. And in order to admire something, you first, I think, have to accept it. So there is some issue with non-acceptance of yourself. To me, self-acceptance to me is synonymous with self-love. You are learning how to see yourself as a different version. Someone who just woke up and doesn't quite know what's going on, but you are getting used to seeing things differently. Okay? I don't want to overinterpret that. It either clicks or it doesn't. With you or it doesn't. For some of you, it's an interesting thing because I'm seeing you trying to convey something, but no one can hear you. It's like you're not being heard. You're not being heard. So perhaps one of the things you're grappling with is you're not being heard. You believe that people don't hear you. Now, they actually may not hear you as a result of you believing that people don't hear you, right? Because we attract based on vibration, right? And you are reshaping the concept you hold about yourself. You are literally looking at yourself as a beautiful, I'm seeing it as light. You're looking at yourself as a beautiful light. And your entire appreciation of yourself begins to change as a result of that. Now, that connection is vastly different, or the feeling of that connection is vastly different than if I am in a dark, damp forest. It feels very different. It's light, and the other thing is, you likely have experienced beliefs around feeling like you're not needed, or believing that you're not needed, something to that effect. If we believe that we are not needed, and everyone wants to feel needed, we all want to feel as part of something. If that's in your programming somehow, then you're going to overextend yourself. You're going to overgive. You're going to overpromise as a way of trying to validate yourself by doing all those things. Okay? And you're beginning to understand that this is no longer the way you buy people's love. You have to love yourself first. How you love yourself gives them almost like how you love yourselves gives them the how do I say this? Gives them a way of how to be with you. I can't quite express that. My apologies, but I can't quite express it with words. In other words, if you are someone who is fairly meek and not confident, people will deal with you differently. They will approach you differently. You'll come across as not a confident person, right? You might be susceptible to bullying, okay? On the other hand, where you show up in your full energy and you stand there in your beautiful glory for the magnificent being of light that you are, and you have a confidence about you, and you don't seek out approval, you're not going to attract people like that. People are not going to treat you as, someone less or insignificant, because that is not how you show up. It's not how you show up. How you show up is often how people will treat you. Okay? So there's a message for someone, that has to do with insignificance, feeling insignificant somehow. Now here's the thing. Feeling insignificant and being insignificant are two different things. First of all, you can't be insignificant. That doesn't exist. Can't. You are part of all that is, and that is certainly not insignificant. You are part of that. So if you are part of something that's not insignificant or something that is significant, and you are part of this significance, then that makes you someone who is significant. Now, if you don't believe in that, the question becomes, why? What do you believe in? And why? Why do you believe what you believe? Number one. Number two, do you choose to believe what you believe? Because that choice is up to you. And there's no but. There's no but. You choose or you choose, or you choose or you don't choose, which is also a choice. If you don't believe that you are powerful, you are going to feel disempowered. What does a disempowered person do versus a person that's empowered? Think about it. What's the difference? What is the difference in terms of approaching life in general? Approaching yourself, approaching situation and challenges in life. Someone who is powerless, feels powerless, or feels empowered. both would approach life from a different perspective. Agreed? Yeah. You just have to decide which perspective you want to live, which perspective you would like to experience. And guess what? That choice of perspective is up to you. I just saw an orb fly across. How you choose to see yourself, how you choose to perceive yourself, it's up to you, not anybody else. I don't care how other people perceive you. You have to buy into it in order for that perception to become yours. And no, I'm not saying it's always easy. Of course not. As young children, we don't have the logical understanding. We don't have the discernment to say, oh, whatever this person says, it's got nothing with me, it's got everything to them. We take everything that comes in as gospel. That's how we get programmed, right? So if your own programming is about not being powerful, then you have to ask yourself, do I want to change that? Do I want to change that? Of course you want to change that. Everybody wants to change that. Who doesn't want to feel empowered? I have not met that person yet. And I've been doing this work for over 20 years. I have not met a person who said to me, hey, help me feel disempowered. It's not usually a choice. Okay? To feel powerful often means you have to believe that you are powerful. Okay? Because if you don't believe it, how are you going to feel it? It's very hard. It's very hard. Okay? So there's a lot of empowerment stuff here. We have the moon. Oh my goodness. So let's not run away from our shadows. Let's face our shadows. Let's see what is lurking behind those critters that we are so afraid of. It is for some reason, I'm getting shamanic. For perhaps some of you will experience this releasing or facing your shadows through some sort of shamanic journey or journeys. Okay. You are facing yourself in your dark moments. So you might be going through a darker moment, just maybe not feeling great, and just facing that part of you. And that's, if you're doing that, that's brave. You are being brave. It certainly takes courage to face our shadows, face our ghosts. It absolutely does. But the reward you get from that is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So yes, there's a little bit of hard work, if you will, but the payoff is such that you can't realize that payoff because you're still in this shadow. You're still living out your shadows. Okay. Now, we all have shadows. The difference is, do we frequently vibe with the energy vibration of a shadow, or do we vibrate with the vibration of our light? Because we have both. We have both. We have both dark and light. Okay. So if we're vibing too much in the fear, we are going to feel fearful for the most part. Okay. What I just heard is this. Fear is something that is unrecognized. Isn't that interesting? Fear is something that's unrecognized. I'm going to have to think about that. I feel like a little box is opening. Fear? Interesting. Fear is something that is unrecognized. I'm not talking about the type of fear where you're being chased by a lion. Be fearful and run, by all means. We're talking about things, not being good enough, inferior, that kind of standard human stuff, as I call it. Okay? Card of healing is showing up, but it's showing up in reverse. So part of you will be resistant to this work. Why? Because you're afraid that when you do this work, your entire life is going to change. That's why you're doing this work. Of course it's going to change. You want it to change. Don't you want it to change? You want to have a better version of what you are having, right? You want it to change. Of course it's going to change. If you don't want things to change, stay the same. That's okay. And you don't need permission from anybody. It's your choice. Just choose wisely. Choose based on what you want. If you want to experience prosperity, for example, you have to face the shadow that is not allowing you to experience prosperity or whatever else it is. Because on some level, it doesn't believe it can, it should, or is allowed, or some other story. So yes, when you heal that part of you, when you transform it, of course your life is going to change. It's supposed to. Pardon me. You are going to make that change. You're that effective. And some of you might be a little bit timid of doing this work because you may be asking yourself, well, what if I heal and all of a sudden what I want is no longer what I have? That may very well happen. In fact, it is almost assured that it'll happen. Because there will be a new, different quality to you that wants to express that instead what it has been expressing up until this point. That's a good thing. The fear might be that you're going to lose some people in the process or lose things. You're never going to lose things that you need. What you might do is replace them with other things, other people, other situations, other jobs, other ways of communicating with yourself, other ways of relating to yourself. Yes. Of course your life is going to change. You wanted it to change. Besides, if we are not changing, we are stagnating. In fact, it's almost impossible not to change because that's what life is about. It's a constant change. Our cells are changing every second of every day. I believe every 7 days we have brand new skin because it's or 21 days. I don't know which one it is, but some crazy idea. You can't stop things from happening is what I want to say. And I don't mean it in a bad way. So notice if you are resisting anything that has to do with fear of change. Okay. Some of you might actually have a fear around stability. When you are in one place for too long, you feel uncomfortable. Hear this. Stability may scare you. How messed up is that? It's amazing. Why on earth would stability scare you, for God's sake? Isn't that what we all crave? Well, as an example, if you grew up in an environment that was absolute chaos and there was literally no stability, then what you've learned is that is what life is. That's it. That is my reality. And that becomes your comfort zone. It becomes your real. It becomes something you depend on to be there for you. It's familiar. And believe me, these things exist. They're very real. Okay? So for someone who is not used to experiencing peace and it's constantly in chaos inside, when they first begin to experience peace, they often don't know what the hell to do with it. It's too much. The energy is so different. The vibration is so different. It has to take them time to accustom to this new energy because it's all frequency. Feeling expanded feels weird at the beginning. Trust me when I tell you that. It feels weird is the best way I can say it. It feels amazing, but at first it feels weird as well. Very much bizarre. Because it's not your norm yet. You are simply not used to it. Okay? So I think that's what I have for you, pile number 2, except for the fact that they just showed me crossroads. You are likely at or about to enter the idea of a crossroads, which is choices, challenges, choices. Which way do I go? What do I choose? And it's interesting because the last few clients I've signed up for the mentorship program, they're literally right smack in the middle of 2 worlds. It's like you guys come like in package. It's all exactly the same. That's why this time is such an opportune time to take a look at your shadows, because you are in between spaces. You are on this bridge, if you will, and it's a perfect opportunity to leave the old behind. What I heard is, don't waste a moment thinking you can't do this. Of course you can. You're doing it right now. You're doing it right now. Believe it or not, you're doing it right now. The very fact that you are engaging with these energies, that you are still listening some 23 minutes later, the very fact that you are absorbing this or allowing yourself to be with it means you're doing it. You are allowing this energy to come into your body, and then what you do with it, then it's up to you. Okay? My hope is that I can persuade you or encourage you to do these things so that you can live a more harmonious inner life, right? Because at the end of the day, if we are constantly living in this harmony, then we live in a lot of pain, emotional, sometimes physical, mental. We have anguish, we have anxiety, and of course these things will happen in little pockets, but I'm talking, if you're constantly an anxious person, we need to understand why, where is this anxiety coming from? What's causing it? Is it a belief system? Is it some trapped energy that you haven't dealt with? Is it some fear that you've experienced while young and you don't know how to release it, and you resist it? It could be anything, right? This is a perfect time to release. And by the way, for some of you, your hearing is opening because I just felt that. Okay? That's what I have for you, pile number 2. All right, pile number 3. Let's see what messages we have for you. So the first card we have is alone time. This goes without saying. It's a pretty straightforward message, but there's going to be a little bit more. The universe is supporting you now in spending more time alone. Why? Before I go into the reason why, this is not a reason for you to hide yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. But if you're someone who tends to be very busy, distracting yourself, constantly putting things on your plate so that you don't have time alone with yourself, then you're likely running away from something. Okay? If that's the case, you might want to ask yourself this question right about now. What am I running from? What am I constantly running from? What's chasing me? Now, the automatic response will be, I don't know. That's because you're based on your conscious awareness, you probably don't know. You have to go deeper. You have to ask yourself these deep questions in a space of stillness, where this yak is a little bit to the side, and you can easier access your inner knowing, your inner awareness, your inner guidance. And the inner guidance, which is your best friend, is not somewhere over there. It's generally not in your head. I guess it could be felt in the head, but it's embodied. It's inside you. Okay. At least that's what I'm picking up. And if you are listening to this, then chances are you have disconnected from that side of you for a while now, and you're distracting yourself to not have that awareness. If that makes sense to you, if it resonates with you, then ask yourself the question, okay, why do I do that? Why do I resist tuning into myself? Perhaps it's too much. There's too much inside and you don't want to face it. Then the alternative is to always hide from it. Okay? And usually when we hide from things, it's because we don't want to be seen. I wonder if there is a part of you that is afraid of expressing itself and it doesn't want to be seen. You don't want to be seen in public. You don't want to speak out. You don't want to speak up. You don't want to be noticed. Just observe yourself and see if any of that resonates with you. Why is that important? Again, just like with the other piles, if in fact this is what you are creating, then wouldn't it make a lot of sense for you to understand why you're creating that? Why don't I want to face me? Why? Why? Okay. Your understanding comes from within you, not from outside of you. That's very interesting because you are now hearing things from outside of you. I'm speaking to you, right? We're talking to you. But that's why I always say, whatever information you hear coming out of my mouth, don't take it as gospel. Absorb it with your body and see what your body wants to do with it. Let your body decide. Okay? Because it's more than words, it's energetic. Okay? It may feel just right, or it may arise a certain trigger. Okay? Both of these things are wonderful. If it's a trigger, then that's very interesting. Look at the trigger. What is this trigger saying to you? What's being triggered? What story inside of you is being triggered? Is it the story that says I am not good enough? It's nonsense. There's no such thing as you not being good enough. I know that's what your mind wants you to believe because of its own experiences that it had and had to make sense of it. And that may be your current belief, but you cannot, there's nothing missing within. There's nothing, you're a whole person. There's nothing missing. There's nothing you have to be more of in order to deserve to be loved, to deserve to be embodying your truth, your power. Because you already are that. You just don't believe it. Okay? And if there is something you don't believe in, very rarely will you put effort towards experiencing it. Because you generally are not going to engage yourself with something you don't believe in. Or if you do, it's going to be half-ass. Okay? The point I'm trying to make is that it's time to make an appointment with yourself, perhaps appointment with your higher self, with the higher version of you. The one that wants to communicate with you, but it's been gagged. I see it being gagged. It can't speak. And It is very rare that your higher self shouts at you. It generally doesn't happen. It's usually a very soft and subtle type of a feeling or sensation. Okay? And here's why. You as a human have free will. Your soul can't force you to do something you don't want to do because you have free will. At least that's the understanding I'm being given. Makes sense? So it can't grab your arm and say, no, we're not doing this because it's not good for you. It's, you have a choice. Okay? Now, your choices may be influenced by your soul, by your higher self, but only if you're paying attention to it. If you're not paying attention, how are you going to know? How are you going to perceive these little nudges, these voices, which are not necessarily audible? Usually they're not. These intuitive hits, these spidey senses. If you've shut yourself off from that, you're not benefiting from all the things that your higher self wants to communicate with you. All the information has available for you. It just wants to be heard. Okay. I just heard, listen to yourself more often. Perhaps you're the type of person that gives people advice and you're not walking the talk. Sometimes we do that, right? Sometimes I do that. It's like, oh crap, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching, although I hope I never preach. If you're telling somebody that they are more deserving to experience something more, and you feel also undeserving yourself, maybe it's time to give yourself the same advice. You are deserving of so much more. You don't have to become anything or anybody else to be more deserving. You already are. You already are. You already are. But unless you can see it within yourself, unless you buy into it, unless you do that, you will not be able to embody it, which means you will not be it. You will not be experiencing that. Also, wealth and worth is very often tied to our own sense of self-worth. One simple example is if someone is not feeling self-worth, if they don't feel like they're worthy, they're going to stop themselves from playing with life to the fullest. Because they're going to believe they can, they're not allowed, they're not supposed to, they're not good enough, I can't do this right, it's not for... They're going to stand in their own way. And we all stand in our own way. That's a given. That's a given. The question is, do we want to continue stand in our own way? And if we do, at least let's do it consciously and powerfully because we can, not because it's happening outside of our awareness, which means we're not the boss of that. Okay? You're always able to decide differently. You're always able to decide differently. I just heard, what if I don't know how to decide? Of course you know how to decide. You decide every day, like hundreds of times a day, you make a decision. It's not that you don't know how to decide. It's you don't trust yourself that what you decide is going to be the right decision for you. That's because you don't trust yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, you're going to hold yourself back. 1,000,000%. And I know a little bit about that myself. I wrote the book. Okay? The unworthiness idea is something that you might want to confront because it's no longer serving you. Okay? The universe cannot force you to see yourself differently. Again, you have the power of choice of free will. Only you can do that. I just heard, what if nobody supports me in that? Okay, granted, we want support, we need support. But here's what I'm going to say first and foremost. First, you support yourself. Be a support to you. Don't kick yourself down. Don't beat yourself up. Don't tear yourself down, because that's not being of support to you. And then you're going to notice something magical happening. When you are in support of you, all of a sudden support shows up. It's a vibration. When you support something, it generally means you believe in something. You're not going to support something that you believe is not worth existing. Same with you. If you don't support yourself, then you are not in support of you. It's very invalidating to you. So maybe a question you might want to ask yourself: how do I not support myself? How do I deny myself outside support? Perhaps, again, you believe on some level that you don't deserve support. The whole deserving thing has got to go. It's not even real. It's hardwired, yes, and it's ingrained, yes. But it's programming. It's all programming. Okay? You are in a stage right now, pile number 3, listening to this, whenever you listen to it. You're in a position right now where you can shift that frequency, and you no longer have to be idling in this, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. You've experienced it, you have the experience. Thank you, soul. I want to move on to something else. Okay. So that's what I have, card number 1. Number 2. We have 9 of Cups. Isn't that beautiful? So we have beautiful depiction of 9 of Cups. What I'm getting first and foremost is a lot of stability. Okay, a lot of emotional stability. And because I'm being shown this, it's saying that you are about to, or are in the process of, experiencing a lot more stability, emotional stability. Then that tells me it's not, it hasn't been there for you before, or you are reaching a new level of emotional stability. Okay? Your sense of security is also changing. You are in charge of who you are. You are in charge of who you are. The question is, who are you? Well, I do this and this. No, that's what you do. Who are you? Who are you? Notice when you ask yourself that question, who am I? What answers you get. It's very interesting. Who am I? Who am I? Sometimes people have to think, and it actually is a challenge for them to figure out who they are. They have no idea. More often than not, they associate themselves with what they do, who they are with, what they're driving, what their titles are. But those are all just perceptions, they're labels, they're beliefs. You certainly are more than just a label. Right? You are also, I feel, celebrating something. A new beginning. This is what I'm getting. And this is purely intuitively, it's flowing to me. Life is supporting you right now. It's not that it hasn't supported you before. It's that you did not feel supported. Okay? You didn't feel supported for whatever reason. But now that support is changing, but it's changing because the support inside of you is changing, or how you are in support of yourself internally, it's changing. How you look at yourself is changing. How you engage with yourself is changing. You are in a process of changing you. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. You have plenty. You have more than plenty. And as a result, you can share. And this is not just a physical belief. This is emotional. This is how you feel inside. Now remember, anything that we feel is a vibration. That is what we project out into the universe. The universe gives us based on what our projection is. So if we project plenty, this is what the universe is going to give us in a 3D human form. When you recognize yourself as someone that is so much more than what they believed, your confidence about you begins to grow. When you become aware that inside of you, you are more than plenty, you are more than enough. You're a unique individual, and there is a reason why you exist. You begin to change and shift the dynamic you have with you. It's beautiful. Don't shy away from being seen. So I don't know what it is about this seen thing, but don't shy away from being seen. You have something to offer to people, okay? You likely know what it is, or you're questioning right about now. I just heard art studio, so I don't know art studio. Somebody's thinking about art studio, okay? Last but not least, so we have priorities in resistance. So all I'm going to say about this is this. Your shift of perspective is going to change the order in which you prioritize things. Your priorities are changing. But what I want to say here is be careful that you don't cling to old beliefs. It's like you're searching for a new belief and you can't quite find that other belief. So be careful you don't cling onto the old belief. Okay? Questioning your importance. And I don't mean the ego importance, but questioning your value. Again, questioning your value. If you don't feel valuable, if you don't believe your own value, if you do not see your own value, you will generally want to have others to approve of your value. Okay? That's pretty much giving your power away, even though you can't give your power away because you are it, but that's pretty much is giving your power away to outside authority for how you feel about yourself. Okay? So the message here is become your own authority. If you are feeling inferior, for example, because that's what I'm hearing, then you're going to hold a certain level of authority, which is going to be less than if you felt empowered. Your own authority, okay? Don't let someone else be in authority of you. You be your own authority, okay? And I just heard someone say, I don't know what's good for me. How on earth can you not know what's good for you? If you don't know what's good for you, who's supposed to know? Come on. If you don't know what's good for you, who's supposed to know? Your neighbor? How the hell is he or she going to know? They don't know you like you know yourself, or do they? Because if they do, then that's a massive problem. If you don't know yourself well enough, and therefore you look out for outside guidance for pretty much every decision, then you are not living life according to yourself. You are living life according to other people. Now, if you are okay with that, perfect, continue. But if you're unhappy, then you might want to rethink that strategy. And it is a strategy. That's a strategy. That's your strategy. Okay? And you've developed this strategy as a result of something. Okay? Becoming honest with yourself is very necessary right now. That is not to say that you are purposely being dishonest, but we humans lie to ourselves all the time. It is amazing to watch how we humans do it. We don't do it consciously, obviously. Sometimes we do, but most of it is unconscious. We lie to ourselves all the time. I would say 70% of the time, what we talk about, what we say, we're not even conscious why we say what we say. We use words which we don't, we use words which have a different meaning than what we are trying to express. It's bizarre for me I love watching it, but it's bizarre. People lie to themselves all the time. And for most of the part, they don't even know it. And it's not that they're not capable to know it, it's that it's not visible to them. So don't take this as a dig. I do it too. In fact, more often than not, I know when I'm lying to myself. It's like, oh shit. Okay, I'm lying to myself. It's kind of like, it's not comfortable, but it's like, okay, I'm telling myself this again. Okay, why am I doing that? I know it's not true, so why am I bullshitting myself? It's a bloody habit. It's a habit. We humans are full of habits. Some of them great, some of them not so great. So I'm only talking about those habits that limit you, diminish you, keep you small, keep you feel insignificant, making you not realize your goals, those things. Because those are the things that are detrimental to your growth. They're keeping you in a container, okay? And that's not to say that containers aren't comfortable. This is usually why we stay in our belief system, because it's a container that is familiar and comfortable. Might be small, might be a little bit squeezed in, uncomfortable, but it's ours. Darn it, at least it's mine. Of course, that's a metaphor. Okay. Looking at your belief systems offers you huge opportunity right now to see the world from a different perspective, to see first and foremost yourself from a different perspective, and as a result, your world from a different perspective. Imagine for a moment that you woke up tomorrow morning, and from the very first thought you had in your mind, first thing in the morning was a thought about you loving yourself. Imagine waking up, it's like, oh, I love myself. Okay, thank you. Imagine if you did that every morning, and it was not a thought you were consciously thinking of, it just would naturally happen. It would be a part of you. Imagine how your days would be different, how you would handle challenges differently, how you would look at yourself differently. And how you look at yourself will depend on what choices you make or don't make, how you approach certain things, how you communicate with people, the relationships you have. It affects everything. Absolutely everything. Perhaps to make better choices for yourself, you first have to realize that the choices you are making are based on your skewed perception you have of you. If that's the case, examine those. Don't be afraid to see yourself. Don't be afraid to see yourself as a whole person. Now, why would anybody be afraid to see themselves as a whole person? Well, if they've always seen themselves as less than, that is a huge shock to the ego. And ego does not like that. No. Ego's like, don't mess with me. Don't mess with my stability. It messes with its stability. Okay. I think that's what I have for file number 3. I feel some challenges with digestion. So some of you may be experiencing inflamed bowels or digestive issues or things with digestion. Okay. I'm not getting sense of anything else. It could be you're digesting your emotions. Your digestion kind of feels off. I also get almost like heartburning, so you might experience heartburn. I'm not sensing that it's anything bad. By the way, when we think of ourselves as small or insignificant, we will hold our power back, which is our power center is our solar plexus. And that is where your digestive organs are. So when you resist expressing your power, when you hold yourself back, it will affect that part of your body, and 9 times out of 10 it'll affect you physically as well as emotionally, not to mention mentally. Not only that, the stomach is called the second brain. I believe they now say that it has more, the stomach, the gut has more receptors than the brain. And it affects your mood, how you see yourself. It affects the chemicals in your brain. So if that part of your body is not healthy, including your emotions, if you have a lot of emotions stuck there, that's going to complicate things for you in many ways. Okay, so look after your digestion, and just ask yourself: is my digestion stuff? Is it? I wonder. Is it perhaps somehow connected to the fact that I always hold myself back? It's worth investigating. Okay. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Again, if you would like to hear the extended version of the releasing, click on the link below. Thank you so much to all of you who have booked with me over the Black Friday sale. I'm completely just at awe and over the moon grateful. And if you would like to have a session with me, of course, that link is down below. Thank you again, once again. Please share this with a friend, subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. If you are desiring to tap into your infinite inner knowledge for the purpose of expressing yourself more fully, and you are not quite sure how to go about it, click on the link below and book a session with myself and my spiritual team, and we would be honored to help you on your journey. Thank you so much, and have a great day.